Welcome to this Thursday's edition of CED Office Hour Live. This is the March 23rd, 2023 edition, where we're going to be talking about contracting and building relationships with Central State University. And continuing this conversation also on the economic inclusion, stakeholder outreach, and then just how to leverage the resources that Central State University has to help build and help build your organizations and help you meet your goals. Um, and going on and on. But as always, I like to first introduce our team. Ambrose Moses, Eric Smith, and myself, we make up the Community and Economic Development Team, commonly known as the CED team. In government and academia, there's a lot of acronyms, but CED is one to remember, right? And I like to start off with just just giving a definition of community and economic development. Even though it's three words, it's three powerful words. It's a term that's very vast, like diversity, and you can talk to five different people and get five different answers. So I like to level set and start with a common definition of community and economic development. So CED looks at how we live, work, play, thrive, and navigate through all of the aforementioned, right? And it's a spectrum, and it's very interdisciplinary. So it's a spectrum of things that CED touches. I like to say we touch everything. But to give you an examples, on one end of the spectrum is your economic development, right? And that's your infrastructure. So that's housing, that's development public spaces, highway systems, bike paths, public parks, new office buildings, all of that entails into the economic development end of CED. And then on the other end of the spectrum is the people development. So that's quality of life programming, social service, things that make people more self empowered, increasing their self sufficiency. So that's workforce development, professional development, the quality of life things that gives better access. That's diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of things. That is on the people side. And then the connector between the two ends of that spectrum are the businesses and organizations such as Central State University that helps make all of that go round, right? It's connecting the people to the infrastructure system and back and forth. And so that is the general definition of CED. And as CED professionals, what we do is we look at we're like systems engineers, right? So we look at that whole system and then say, based on our bandwidth and our resources and our expertise, these are the areas of that system that we can plug and play and make a sustainable difference. So our work, it affects people immediately, but it also impacts people over the long term for generations. So we take pride in our work, in our ability to have that lasting impact. But here today, we have Stephen Washington, who was a 30-day member, and that's a running joke of our CED team. Um, and he is currently over all of the if you want to build a relationship, if you're alumni, if you're a business wanting to partner with the university, Stephen is the person to talk to. So as always, I'm going to turn this platform over to you, Stephen, so you can kind of give an overview of just starting out how you even your commitment and how you even got to Central State. And also, then we'll go into some of your professional background, especially at the finance and banking. And then we'll go into your current role here at the university.
Thanks, Amber, and thanks everyone. And the first thing I have to do is correct Amber. It was actually 43 days, not 30. So you're not going to cheat me out of my 13 days. I need all of those days because I enjoyed it. So I won all my days. Welcome everyone. Steve Washington, Director of Community Engagement and Business Partnerships here at Central State University, which is a role that was created about 20 months ago at this point, um, really to assist the president's office with the many, many requests upon the university for partnerships. And so um, there's a lot of interest in the university, in the corporate and business community, um, in terms of student acquisition, but also partnering with our vast resources, which in this part of the state are significant, in this county are pretty dominant. If you look at the economic impact, there's no other entity in this part of the county anyway that has that impact. And so we field all those inquiries and try to connect those dots and make sure that all of the many entities, companies, nonprofits, government institutions that want to access the university and partner with the university are able to get connected to the appropriate stakeholders internally so that we can capitalize on that outpouring of interest and concern for the university based on our unique standing in the state.
So, with that being said, um, tell us a little more about your background and your professional background and how you even got to Central State and why you decided to stay.
Well, luckily we have 45 minutes because this part is probably going to take up 44 and a half of them. So shouldn't have asked me that question. So, I actually graduated from Central State University in 1985 with a degree in economics, which is actually unfortunately a major that no longer exists here. We'll see if what we can do about that. But left there and went to Atlanta University, now better known as Clark Atlanta University, and to work on an MBA, which I did in 1985, and that was actually the last year of Atlanta University graduates. And after that, it's been Clark Atlanta ever since. So a little bit of sideline history. W.E.B. Du Bois taught at both what is now Central State University vis-a-vis Wilberforce at that time and Atlanta University. So I went to the two spots that the great W.E.B. Du Bois actually taught at, in terms of his HBCU teaching. And he met his wife here in Wilberforce University. A lot of people in Wilberforce, Ohio, a lot of people don't know that. But I digress. But then after Atlanta University, I went into banking. Um, National Bank of Detroit, which has since been absorbed by probably 5 banks, but is now part of Chase,
Mm-hmm.
and moved from there back home to. I'm from Akron, Ohio, but moved back to Cleveland and did more banking there, with what is now Key Corp, Key Bank. Then got involved in investment banking and worked in public finance for a minority-owned investment banking firm, and did investment banking and asset management and investment research. And on a chance encounter, a colleague asked me to come in and be a guest speaker at his finance class at Cleveland State University, which is in downtown Cleveland, a few blocks from where the two of us worked. So I did, and it was fun. And then the next week, he calls me and says, "Hey, I just got a job with U.S. Bank in Minneapolis." And I was like, "Oh, great. Congratulations." He said, "Would you mind completing my class? Because it's midway through the semester, and I already told the department chair that I thought you would be a good stand-in for me, that would help because I hate to leave these kids in the lurch." And I was like, "Are you serious?"
So you were
So
voluntold.
I took over this guy's class mid-semester and sort of finished it. And then lo and behold, the department chair said, hey, next semester we've got that same, would you like to teach it? And so this was in 1997 or 8. And I said, yeah. I've literally been teaching at the 4-year state level level literally ever since, year round. So I went from Cleveland State as an adjunct to the University of Akron as a full-time instructor in finance while still working my downtown Cleveland investment banking job um, until the financial crisis. And our firm was bought by a firm in Oakland. And I was asked if I wanted to move there. I told them, no, I don't. And so I continued teaching full-time at Cleveland, at Akron U, until I was hired away to come to Central State in 2012 to teach finance and economics. And I've been here ever since, and then transitioned into this role about 20 months ago. So I guess that didn't take the entire time, but I think that answers the question.
Yeah. So, in your role as the finance professor here at Central State, you did more than just teach. So can you talk to us a little bit about some of the work really that was community economic development work, right? You did some economic impact reporting. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that works and how it benefits the local just Ohio counties?
Yeah, well, as a faculty, I was I'm considered quote unquote professionally qualified, meaning I don't have a PhD, so I'm not a professionally trained academic. Um, so in all my teaching, I've always had a toe in to industry. So yep, I collaborated and still do with the Department of Business and Curtis Pettis, our CFO, to produce our annual economic impact study, which our economic impact is tremendous and growing in the state, especially since we now include extension in that statewide. Um, I was part of the group that put together the university's Summer Banking Institute, which is a partnership between, at this point, probably 10 banks, the university, the Ohio Bankers League, to provide, at this point, probably 60 internships a summer to students interested in banking or needing to be introduced to it, which includes classroom preparation and soft skill preparation. In advance of that, we're currently developing an insurance model modeled after that. So we'll have our first Summer Insurance Institute this year as well. So all of those types of projects, faculty athletic representative, which I've done for the last 5 years, which is a separate function that is community development related. It is a community related function, but I'm pleased to do that and deal with the NCAA. So all of those things. And so that a lot of that work has transferred into this role is probably why I was tapped to do it, because a lot of that type of work that needed to be done in this office because of the tremendous volume of incoming inquiries for business partnerships.
There's I think in what you've shared so far, Stephen, there's a lot sort of packed into it. Even when you were talking about the the history, your academic history of going to attending and receiving your degrees from the different HBCUs, Central State, then Atlanta University, and the history associated with that, and it's relevant to Central State here as an 1890 land grant institution as well. When you made reference to Wilberforce, Dr. W.B. Du Bois teaching, you said here, and he said at that time Wilberforce. That's a very key point where Wilberforce is the oldest Black-owned private university, and the state of Ohio in 1887 uh, paid for a program to be housed and maintained by Wilberforce, and that is considered the beginning of Central State. You know, some years later, it moved out and grew from there. But that is some very important history, and that helped to establish the eligibility for Central State as a land grant institution. So that's great.
Yeah, and if you absolutely that if not for that, yeah, there would it, as long delayed as it was, that would be the only chance. And I don't see anybody coming in after us, so we'll probably be the last one.
Mhm.
But also interestingly enough, that initial Wilberforce state partnership to create almost really like a high school, a normal school,
Mhm.
trade. At that time, believe it or not, business administration was not a, an accepted academic discipline. It was
Mhm.
like the school of commerce. It was like a vocation, right?
Mhm.
Bookkeeping, which so that's the piece that moved over. And so when you talk about economic development, business development, it really does
Mhm.
go back to the normal school and the old school of commerce, which
Mhm.
eventually became Central State.
And I have sort of another question. Then you started talking about your work that you do with the university and measuring. You use the descriptor of impacts that the university makes, and you said that now extension is included in that as well. So I was wondering, when you are doing those assessments, measurements, or cataloging, what are impacts that are tracked by your office?
Yep. So we partner with a firm called InPlan, which is a preeminent software provider for economic impact studies. And so they're able to work with their data, and then our data, which we supply, we're able to quantify impacts. And most of the impacts revolve around employment, spending, taxation in terms of tax contribution. Um, yep, those are the major impacts. Um,
Okay.
Travel. So Central State is unique in that even though we're the smallest 4-year state institution, we're the only one where 50% of our student population, I'm talking about on campus, because if you look at online, it's even more than that, obviously, but on campus population is from out of state. So we're regional. We're strongly regional. We're not just Ohio. We're Detroit. We're Chicago. We're Indianapolis.
Hmm.
We're Milwaukee. So we have a strong Midwest regional appeal pool, and
Hmm.
so we bring dollars into the state from other parts of the Midwest, and then many of the students stay here. So
Okay.
so we have, I think, an outsized impact for our relative size.
Hmm. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So in one final question. I don't want to hog up all the time,
Oh no,
but
keep going, keep going.
when you say that now extension has been added, what do your office and the main university, what do you look for extension to do in terms of impact, or how do you measure or track that?
Yeah, I
And
think
what kind of information should we be gathering
right.
to help you in that process?
I was going to say in future studies, we need to connect more strongly with extension in terms of analyzing extension economic impact. I'm an advocate for, and I've told this to Dr. Kuti, that um, we subscribe to IMPLAN, and I think we should do an economic impact study just on extension. That way, because and get extension people involved, then we can better quantify the real impact, right? Because there's impact we probably don't even know about. It's easy to say, well, we know how many people are working in extension and in what counties or where they're located and what they're being paid. But in terms of specifically what people are doing that can be a quantifiable economic impact, I don't think so. I I, I think, and I think this would be a good project for CED to partner with the university just to use the M-Plan software, which is a subscription we pay for, to do an economic impact study just of Central State Extension. And to
We
try
would
to
love to
figure
do
out
that.
really
So
what that,
we need to ask our program leader,
what it
Mark
is.
Rendelman,
Right?
and
Yeah,
Dr.
exactly.
Cootie,
That'd
if
be a
we
great,
can do that.
yeah, right. And then we'd work with Mr. Pettis and, and even the same professors in the business school who do the one, because they can help, like, figure out how to do that. And they know how to work the software and how the inputs work and all that stuff. But there's no reason why we couldn't do, I think we should, just by definition of community and economic development, we probably should be doing an annual economic impact study of extension, which would then be included in the universities, but it would probably be way better, way more accurate, way more thorough. We're relying on reports and financial reports that we get back from Dr. Cootie and just sort of the static data. But we have no idea if there's a program out there that had some impact. It's not going to show up from our 360 view of just give us some numbers from, the budgets, what have you.
Right. Because CED work in itself is, we make this case all the time. It's not just that immediate workshop. We might be working with a business today or someone who wants to start a business, but they might not open it or expand to the next year because they're working on all these internal planning and getting versed in whatever they need to have. And we help with that, but you might not physically see that until a year out or the next year after that, right? So doing this would also, I think, help to identify the businesses that and individuals that we're working with now, and then maybe some kind of survey in a year or two, like where are you now compared to last year? And that could help give you some of that data that you're looking for.
Well, the good thing about the software is once you do the first one, which is hard, after that, you're just, you could do them every year and just sort of template is set up. So, but I would strongly recommend that we should follow up and figure out how to use that software to do a study just for extension.
I think we'll do that. We'll be following up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Eric, you had a question. I'm not used to you raising your hand. I'm used to you just joining it.
Yeah, well, I'm typing in from the road, so so I have a couple different questions or questions in my mind. So Stephen, I'm wondering, I know that I know that when we worked together for those 43 days, that you had a passion for, how do we get capital and, financial resources to the underserved, historically underserved farmers, small businesses, all the set of people we work with. I'm wondering if you've thought any more about that now that you know more about the totality of what the university is about. And then my second line of question is, do you have any thoughts or even guidance for extension and us in the CED unit particularly, now that you're seeing how people are partnering with the university and the different colleges within the university, any thoughts of like, hey, have you guys thought about this connection or this bridge that could add this kind of resource base to what you guys are doing, or manpower, that sort of thing. So
nope, those are two good questions and timely. On the first one, and I think Ambrose knows about, since Central State got land status, I've floated this idea of the Rural Business Investment Company concept, which is a USDA sponsored thing. It's really a license, right? But they created this. It's similar to what SBIC does on the small business side, where they sort of set up these quasi-government backed or leveraged slash licensed small business venture companies. And so the USDA has that model. It's called the Rural Business Investment Company model, and you can apply for a license, and then you can either raise capital with that license and sort of seal of approval, or even do the leverage model where the USDA applies mm, capital in the form of subordinated debt. I don't want to get too technical, in the form of subordinated debt to that to bolster whatever equity is raised, but it's specifically for, rural-based businesses. So we do have this concept to create the 1890 Rural Business Investment Company, from Central State, that would sort of have as its footprint all the other 1890s in terms of where equity capital could be deployed for anything from farm purchases to technologies that have been developed at the various 1890s for crop enhancement or whatever people are doing. Bees, like we're doing here, and corn for diabetes, whatever. So that we wanted, and I talked to Rendleman about that in terms of seeing if we can position that as a CED project, because I think that way it would have the correct institutional home, right, in the university, and we might even be able to get some money applied to the launch of it. So that would be my
And
that would be
jump in,
timely. That would be timely because actually I'm getting ready to take a certification training to help rural grocery stores. So that would be because that's a large kind of sector. So that would definitely fall within what you're talking about.
I just wanted to sort of interject here, since we, once this gets posted, there'll be other folks, viewing the video. If any individuals, companies, or other universities have an interest in this, since we're talking about it publicly now, they should reach out to you, Steve, to discuss it, because there's already some connections with the 1890s that have been made, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. I just want to try to avoid parallel projects. They can just tap into what we're spearheading here.
S. Washington at centralstate.edu.
Okay.
And I'm going to put it in the chat as well.
Yes.
And then your second question, which was
Eric, can you repeat the second question?
Yeah. So I'm just curious, like, just for example, now that you're connected with, for example, the College of Business or some of these other, do you have any thoughts on how we could dovetail our work in extension and access some of those other?
Because I've had stuff come up today, like there's a private company that has this whole for-profit concept of land remediation and and they want a partnership with Central State because they believe that a partnership with Central State would enhance their deal and their proposal and so forth. And they've got land out in Dark County. So I think that we need probably one of the things from the sort of the president's office, because a lot of business proposals come through here because people will call here or start here, or they'll run into him somewhere and he'll say, yeah, contact whatever, call me about it. And then he'll send it to me. But I think for CED to look at how do we, like, if business or partnership opportunities come through, especially that have an agricultural angle to it, is there a way for us to like partner, right? In what is essentially a business venture, just like most universities, and we don't, and that's something we need, have like a commercialization arm somewhere, right? So if there's something that can go to market, it's kind of, there's a way to structure that. And that's different than, hey, we want to partner with you and here's some money to do a program. And we're like, oh yeah, we know how to do that. Boom, just like the, you know, the community health worker program that we're doing. You guys may have heard about. Yeah.
Mhm.
You know? So CareSource came in, said what they wanted to do, cut a check, boom, we're doing it. But when people come in and say, this is more like of a business project, there's like no necessarily front end money for you guys, but there's back end money. If we can do that, if we are successful, how do we collaborate with CED? And like I have a, for lack of a better term, a deal that I can show you guys right now that I'm talking about to figure out, is this something we could do? And how do we connect the various parts of extension to this opportunity? If we think it is an opportunity, right? First, how do we evaluate it to see, is this something we want to do, can do? Is it economically valuable? Okay, if there's money for us on the back end, how does that work, right? And then if we're happy with that, then how do we connect the dots and then do something? And so these guys, these people want to do this deal and to make biofuels through remediation and blah blah blah, and they're claiming all these revenues, and they want to partner with us because it'll make them look good with all they're doing, and they're claiming we'll have revenue share. But okay, can we do it? Do we want to do it? Or what does that look like? I do think that would be a valuable piece for CED to develop, almost like a ag partnership evaluation piece, where it's like, okay, you got, if something like that comes in, bring it to us. We'll look at it and try to figure out if this is something we should even do or not. And if so, then how do we do it? I know
And
that's a
we,
long answer, but that is needed.
well, that's something that we would love to help with, and we do have background to be able to add value to that. But just remember that our CED work isn't just agriculture. That's probably
Mhm.
about 25% of our time. So just know it's not limited to just agriculture or
Well,
agriculture kind of
no,
related
absolutely.
industry.
Right. Yeah, I think yeah, you're right. Any time someone comes to us where it's really, they're proposing, they'll usually couch it as, you know, we're trying to help you guys. But the reality is they have a business deal they're trying to do, and they
Mhm.
know if we're included, it'll help it. Okay,
Yep.
that's fine. It's just a matter of, do we want to do it? Can we do it? And are we is whatever's supposedly in it for us, do we, you know, what do we think about that? So yeah, that would be real helpful.
And part of our role as extension and as CED, we also share the primary role is to provide education, of community-based education. And so when you have businesses and organizations that want to do these kind of projects, one thing is to learn, and this is where CED can come in, to learn how some of those projects can be structured, at least from an academic standpoint. So not providing any professional advice on it, but talking about community development corporation, you know, what that is, or if they were going to do a community housing development organization, because we have some folks who've attended some of our classes that have been talking about housing, you know, wanting to do things in that area. So so to that extent, even if there is not immediately a vehicle established with the university to participate, there may be some of that education that extension and CED can provide to help facilitate their project and bringing in some other community partners or stakeholders, which we may be aware of that they weren't aware of.
Mm-hmm.
That
You're
can do
right.
some of that same thing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it also, you know, I think bring this, what you've brought up here, brings to the forefront the need for, and I know that you're working on some of these, for the university to quick, fast, and in a hurry start putting some of these larger components in place, like establishing or building upon existing community development corporations that the university may have. Because I believe there's one or more that it already does have and has done over the years. But like the large universities have many of these entities and partnerships, it's almost like a mushroom that can happen with Central State doing those same things with all this demand coming in, as in terms of what you're describing. So, but that's going to take manpower and creativity, vision and creativity.
Yeah, I think those opportunities are there for, especially for a lot of development. You may have heard today or yesterday, the city of Xenia announced this pretty extensive housing development plan they got going, because the housing stock is so constrained there. I think they're trying to add 500 units by, I think they said 2027 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it just shows that that there's definitely opportunity for that, and to feed into that. Yep.
And another resource. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that over the last couple of years, there have been some new press releases made. Maybe you could speak to some of those about partnerships or projects with, like, Jay-Z and Beyonce with Central State University. Is that something that's still going on, or what? Yeah, there were some press releases over the year, last couple of years related to that. Is that something that's been done through your office as well, or?
Well, that specific instance that you're talking about with Jay-Z, Beyonce, and I forget who their corporate partner
Is that
is.
Tiffany's or something like that?
I think Tiffany's. Yeah, Tiffany's. Yeah, we were part of, there was a group of HBCUs that they made those donations to. Their scholarship focused, I believe.
Okay. Okay.
And we were included in that cohort of announcements.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So yeah, those come along. I mean, after George Floyd, there was a slew of HBCU attention, corporate HBCU attention, which now is being sort of pushed back on a little bit. The ebb and flows of how that goes, and so
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those things came out of that. So we did participate in some of those. We're participating in the Intel project in Columbus, and we've gotten funds from both Intel and the U.S. Department of Commerce to participate in that. In fact, Intel will be on campus this Monday to tour the campus and look at what we're doing and be updated on that. So yeah, that kind of attention is flowing in, no doubt.
Now, so the Intel involvement, is that on the academic side, or is that elsewhere within the university, extension wide, or is that more academic?
It's on the academic and workforce development side. And so the Dayton location has really been almost transformed into more of a workforce development site. Mm-hmm. So the Commerce Department grant, which was a little over $3 million, will support that and focus on chip manufacturing, technology related certifications. Mm-hmm. The CareSource project, which is to certify people as community health workers, is housed there. So, yep, these non-traditional credential programs, these non-degree credential programs, workforce development, that's really where that's focused.
Could you maybe give for the sake of folks watching the video, maybe an introduction to the workforce development center that you were just talking about, I don't think we had Dr. Muff on yet, have we?
No, we haven't. I'm trying to get on his schedule.
Okay.
But we
So-
are
so-
teaching there at the center, actually. We're doing some entrepreneurship training as we speak.
Okay, so
Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Terry Muff. Yep, they're starting that entrepreneurship training. He's really the workforce development director at the Dayton location, associated with that Commerce Department grant. He has an assistant as well.
Mhm.
And between that grant and the CareSource grant, they've rebuilt out a number of classrooms and equipped them with new furniture and technology. So they're really nice.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
It's a whole 180-degree turn. It's totally different.
And the building overall is slowly being, I mean, the building is huge. It's like, if you remember the TV show Get Smart, like you walk down halls and it's like you can be lost in there with doors slamming behind you. But we're building that out. And so that'll be the workforce development hub. But I do think, so, you know, so we've already talked about, for example, and we should talk more about this. Who did we talk to? Brandy has been including, I think it's Seth. It might have been Seth. I think Seth has been in some of our community health worker meetings, because the idea is, once this pilot is done with CareSource, to try to expand it, statewide, with Extension as a partner, so that extension educators could arrange and or conduct these classes for community health workers, which is right up community and economic development's bailiwick, in that it's community, but it's also economic development, because these people are getting jobs. These are pretty good jobs. I mean, community health worker job, it's not like being a I mean, it's on par with an STNA, but you don't need that level of technical knowledge, and it's way above being like a home health aide, that type of job. So anything to get a license. Yeah,
it is like home health aid, or is it something different than home health aid?
It's way different than home health aid. So a community health worker, which you can obtain a license from the state of Ohio once you have your 100 hours certified, and then another 100 hours of practicum, which basically means work. They're in the high 30s to low 50s. You're out in the community, you're basically connecting with a group of clients that you're just making sure they're connected medically. It's preventative, right? And so making sure they're connected medically to what they're supposed to be doing, or whatever else they might need, mental health needs, or just
you're almost like a navigator type of position.
Yep. It's social work, it's community social work, but it's health based.
Yep. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I really, I'm very interested in what's happening there, Steve, and I just think that's a great project. I think there's a lot of opportunity there that this provides reach deep into neighborhoods and communities. And if we could equip people to be a navigator, not just around traditional, but if we could be a part of a training where they would also learn how to navigate. So economics is the issue, and you have an idea for a startup. Okay, well, here's so I think we could maybe help to round out a little bit the skill set, other pieces. And I also think we talk a lot about asset-based community development. So how could they think about not just how do we connect people to outside resources, this hospital, this mental health facility, but how do we connect people to each other, and then through that to build local power to create their own change and shift their own environment. So those are things that
And then our team also has the ability to even assist with those workforce development soft skills, right? So we do have workforce training, things that we think can augment what is being done.
Yeah.
So we don't just do the business development, we do the people development piece as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to meet with you guys in Rendleman, and maybe even with this current cohort we have, it just started Monday, it ends June 8th. We should probably carve out a day to like bring you guys in and do that, because soft skills is part of their curriculum, interviewing and all that stuff. But really just to introduce the team and maybe, yeah, do your thing in some way, shape, or form. But I think that once this beta test is over with CareSource, because they're interested in, they invested 200,000 in it, and so that number could grow if we're successful. So we've already talked about, let's go statewide, partner with our extension, that's why we got extension. We have this ready-made product because we've got the curriculum, we've got everything you need. And because it's not rocket science, for lack of a better term, really anyone can be trained to teach this material, right? So
we had one real quick. We had a question in the audience. Will the CHW opportunity be ongoing, or is it being offered one time only?
Intention is definitely to make it ongoing. This first time is a test case, a beta test, a demonstration project, whichever term you want. And so, but there's already, just based on the response, we shot for a class of 25. We got 50 registrations. These are actually pretty valuable certificates because Cincinnati State charges $3,500 for what we're doing for free. For the exact same 100 hours, using the exact same text material and everything. So yeah, we do want to, because there's a huge demand for diversity in this area, just to be able to get to the clients and all the disparities, and they're trying to replace prevention with reaction. So it's a very hot area nationwide. Actually, you can go anywhere in the country and get a job as a community health worker.
Well, Shashonda in the audience is saying, "Wow, thank you." Eric gave you the hand clap emoji while you were talking. So we just get excited when it's stuff that's impactful, and they're kind of life changers, right? And it's giving people access to a new track or career, which sometimes is hard to transition from even one industry to something else and still get decent money.
And this is huge because Central State has literally never done this before. We've never actually launched a non-degree in-person certificate program, a legitimate professional certificate program leading to a license. And you can get in with just a GED. So you don't have to, first time you can go to Central State without pursuing some type of a degree. So this is like huge for us. There's more coming, like what they're doing with Intel. Those will be non-degree certificates as well. But this is really our first crack at what we're doing. So,
well, and another segue to that, or potential market for students in that program, is our GED program, right? That is statewide. So I look forward to us having follow-up conversations as we can build out things as well. So Mark popped in real quick. Mark Rendelman popped in the wave. He's in between meetings, but he wanted to say hello.
His ears must have been burning. His name has been
because it was
so
right on
time
when he said it.
Kept mentioning his name. He's like, "Who's calling me?"
So what's Mark? Were you want to say something?
Oh, Eric.
No.
So we're looking really, forward to, like I said, it sounds like we got 2 or 3 projects potentially on the horizon on how we can end up partnering with the community, because remember, the community is not just individuals, but also the organizations, right? That's the connector between the people and opportunity. So I'm really liking hearing these updates on how we can partner and continue to build relationships with all of the stakeholders throughout the state, and the want to leverage the extension model to help do that for Central State. One thing for you, Stephen, I also want to let you know, as you're building some of the things out, one good grant opportunity to look up is the Community and Economic Development Grant, is CED, and it's through Health and Human Services Administration for Community Services, Office of Community Services. And that is a good one because it's focused on kind of that business incubator and development. It has some workforce development pieces to it, and it's a multi-year grant. So that might be something that I think is worth you looking up to see if it's aligned with some of the initiatives that you have rolling down the pike.
Absolutely. Excellent. Yeah, please send me if you have any information on that. Please.
Yeah, I grade them, so yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay. I know,
So
you know.
yeah, I'm very
Good.
familiar with that. So I'll send you the links to that. So that's that one is annual.
Okay.
It's an annual opportunity, but you have a 3-year window when you get awarded.
Okay, great. Absolutely.
So Jesse, Shashonda, Eric, Ambrose, do you all have any other comments or reflections or questions at this time?
I don't really have anything more. I want to thank Stephen for taking time to be with us today. It's always a good discussion and conversation when we get together. So thanks for taking some time here.
No, thanks for having me. Happy to share, what we're trying to do over here and get an update on what you guys are doing, but also to figure out how we can merge some of this stuff together and maximize everything. So this is excellent.
I agree.
Yes, it's always a pleasure being able. I'm glad you took the time out of your busy day to work with us, and we know, in your capacity it never ends. It's always ongoing. But like I said, we look forward to meeting with you offline to help build out some new initiatives and help augment what you're already doing. And just thank you for taking the time to meet with us and just letting the state know that we got a lot of good things going on, from Central State, that they need to come and build some relationships and look at some contracting opportunities with us, right?
Oh,
And
we're
so,
open for business, no doubt.
yes.
We're open for business.
And for those of you, always, if you ever miss an episode, these are all our episodes and segments are posted on the Central State University Extension YouTube channel. And always feel free to contact any of us on here. So we just look forward to meeting with you guys individually, as organizations, and just work together so we can make a better Ohio and just increase our impact um, from Central State. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next week where we will be talking about capacity building for nonprofit organizations. And I have some philanthropists coming, and they have what's called social venture partners. And they take an innovative approach to not only just giving, but helping to build the capacity so that giving can be sustained and used as a platform or catalyst to grow that organization. So we will be talking about that next week, and look forward to seeing you next week. Oh, and real quick, Jesse Montgomery in the audience has said the program for the 9 degrees is a great thing. So keep on doing what you're doing. And Shashonda said, no, the small tidbits that I was able to hear were great. So she didn't have any additional comments, but she truly enjoyed the conversation. So join us next week on the conversation as we segue over to some nonprofit work. Take care and enjoy your week.
Have a good day. Thank you.